What really surprises me is a lot of people still think that Bitcoin can't be touched. What I mean is that a lot of people think that Bitcoin will always be the most valuable cryptocurrency by market cap, as if nothing could ever beat it or challenge it. This way of thinking has been around for more than 10 years. And to be honest, it's rather set in stone. If you're a Bitcoin maximalist, this way of thinking makes perfect sense for you. But here's the deal. I believe that right now is one of the most exciting times to focus on real companies that are solving real problems in the crypto sector. This is what I'm truly looking forward to. We're going to see this amazing change in crypto over time. What I mean is that the whole market will start to change in a big way. We won't have to depend on Bitcoin being the first to move anymore, which has been the case for every cycle we've experienced thus far. You know what to do. Bitcoin has to move first to create that first liquidity. After that, it flows down to Ethereum and then slowly into altcoins. I really think that everything is about to change. And to be honest, I think it all starts with rules. That's what will really transform the game. Now, before we go into all the juicy details of why I think Bitcoin will eventually flip, I want to say that XRP might definitely be the one to accomplish it. In fact, I think XRP is at the top of my list of cryptocurrencies that might take the #1 slot. To start, let's take a look back in time to set the stage. Let's go back to January 7th, 2018. Wow, what a crazy time it was when XRP was at all-time highs and doing so well. This is the insane part. XRP had a market valuation of about $100 billion, which was just $107 billion less than Bitcoin's. Can you believe how close we came to actually flipping Bitcoin? And listen to this. We had already passed Ethereum. So image this. The market cap for Bitcoin was $27.6 billion, whereas the market cap for this was $130.8 billion. But this is when things become really fascinating. Take a look at the price we reached on January 7th. If you do the math, there were around 38.739 billion XRP tokens in circulation. Now here's the fun part. The coin market cap shows that we struck an all-time high, 3.84, which is around $150 billion in market cap. Take a moment to think about that. If XRP had just doubled in value in 2018, we would have completely changed the market cap of Bitcoin. Remember, this is from way back in 2018, and I really want to stress this point since back then XRP didn't have nearly as much power as it does now. What I mean is all these great new things, like stable currency, this whole ecosystem around XRP is doing really well right now. Just look at what we've got going on. The EVM side chain is already working. We have 5 or more stable coins that are about to go live on XRP. Everywhere you look, tokenization is happening. And here is the big one. Ripple is backing RLUSD, which is making it more legitimate. That is a tremendous boost for XRP's reputation. And to be honest, it's also making people want it more. Sure, most of the RLUSD action is still happening on Ethereum right now, but I really believe that is about to change in a significant manner. It's especially true now that we have this EVM side chain. Because of all this, I think there will be a lot of intriguing things happening between Ethereum and XRP. But this is why I'm talking about all of this. People who think about Bitcoin these days tend to go into this holy grail attitude. You know, it's like Bitcoin's top dog. It's always going to be the best. It's the biggest and most successful cryptocurrency. And hey, Bitcoin will always be there. I'm not saying that Bitcoin is going to go away or anything like that. That's not what I mean. But this is what I actually think will happen. Bitcoin is going to lose a lot of the power it has right now. And to be honest, I think it's going to start to drop in the rankings as well. And you know what's really cool? Franklin Templeton actually gave us this heads up. Jenny Johnson informed us directly that Bitcoin is just a distraction from the biggest upheaval going on right now. When you think about what she was truly saying, she was talking about the true technology, the DLT things that are running some of these projects. And she was talking about tokenization, stable currencies, and all the amazing things that these technologies can do. But this is the most crazy part. She knows that none of this can really happen on Bitcoin. Compared to these other DLT platforms, Bitcoin is just too old-fashioned. That's just how it is though. She knows this very well, which is why she told us about it. Things are about to get more crazy now. As I said, when rules start to come out, it's like opening up a whole new world of options. Look at this. Trump signing new rules for stable coins into law is a huge step forward for the whole crypto industry. And then all of a sudden we have the Clarity Act. It just passed in the US House. And now this important crypto measure is going straight to the Senate. These are the two things that will change the game for sure. Here's the schedule now. It's amazing that the stablecoin stuff is already law. As for clarity, we think that will happen by the end of September or the beginning of October. And get this. Clarity is actually the full-blown regulatory clarity law for the whole crypto business. Most individuals who think about crypto right now probably think of it as a crazy unregulated market that runs on excitement and speculation. But these new rules affect everything, guys. Now we're talking about letting a lot of institutions in at once. Major banks are going to jump in head first, and fintech businesses are going to dive in from all sides. This momentum will only keep growing and speeding up from now on. And here's the craziest part of all this. I really called this back in November of last year. We already knew that 2024 would be the year when institutional investors and asset management corporations would finally start to take crypto seriously. But I took a chance and said that at some point in the future projects like XRP and HBR will be bigger than Bitcoin. I get it. A lot of people undoubtedly read that and laughed or thought it was impossible right away. Please let me ask you this very important question. What practical use does Bitcoin have when this area finally gets to the stage where value is based on actual use? We've been hearing this whole store of value story pushed around for a long time now, but really what good does just sitting there and clutching anything do? This is what I expect will happen. When utility becomes the main value driver and diminished returns become the norm, that old school tech will start to disappear totally. I think this is where Bitcoin is going in the future, whether people agree with me or not. The projects that are likely to be the best in this field are the ones that have incredibly efficient technology and real-world use cases all lined up and ready to go. And even now, XRP and Ripple are two different things, however. Ripple made the strategic option to employ XRP and the XRP. This is pretty fascinating. A lot of the smart people that built the XRP ledger came from Ripple, such David Schwartz. And these people had a big impact on how the XRP ledger turned out. When I think of Ripple's future, I don't really care who's in charge of the day-to-day operation. Looking at their board of directors makes me thrilled. And gosh, the people on that list are very amazing. These board members really show you how big Ripple could get. For example, look at Sandy O'Connor. She has a lot of street. She ended her career as JP Morgan Chase's Chief Regulatory Affairs Officer, where she was in charge of making rules and talking to G20 policymakers all over the world. She worked her way up to some really high-level jobs at her last business, like Global Treasurer, Head of Prime Services and even the Executive Committee. It's incredibly fantastic that she's been working behind the scenes to keep our financial markets running properly. She was the head of the Federal Reserve Board's Alternative Reference Rates Committee, and a member of the Treasury Markets Practices Group. The New York Fed supports that. By the way, these days she works on topics related to financial stability and is a member of the FDIC's Systemic Resolution Advisory Committee. As a director for Bank of New York Mellon Corporation and Tarex Corporation, she's also keeping active. She's also on Ripple's board with Rosie Rios, the woman who was America's 43rd treasurer and managed the Bureau of Engraving and Printing in the US Mint. These names are merely the tip of the iceberg. But here's the interesting part. She just spoke at the Bitcoin 2025 conference regarding cryptocurrencies. But there's also this interesting video where she talks about why she chose to join Ripple. Let me show you what she said. You know that 4 months is enough time for new ideas to actually happen. You will hear me say a lot. The train is no longer at the station. You know, thanks. Cryptocurrency. Bitcoin isn't going anywhere. Blockchain is not going away. You know, the worst thing about government is that it doesn't lead, it follows. A lot of it is because you don't have a lot of the subject area specialists.